Uber raised $20 billion as a private company to subsidize rides and outrun regulators. In the early 20th century, the taxi industry was built on a foundation of scarcity. In New York City, the right to operate was controlled by medallions, capped licenses that often traded for hundreds of thousands of dollars. In London, drivers had to master the knowledge, a grueling process of memorizing every street and landmark in the city. The value of a driver was their memory. But by 2008, technology had rewritten the rules. GPS and digital maps replaced years of training. Suddenly, the scarcity that protected the taxi industry was gone. This opening was spotted by Garrett Camp and Travis Kalanick. In late 2008, while attending a technology conference in Paris, the two struggled to hail a taxi in the snow. Camp had previously been frustrated by paying $800 for a private driver on New Year's Eve. Together, they envisioned a smartphone app that could provide on-demand access to luxury vehicles. They called it UberCab. Founded in San Francisco in 2009, UberCab launched its beta in 2010. The mechanism was simple. A user requested a ride via an iPhone app, and a licensed black car driver responded. Payments were automatic, and fares were initially 1.5 to 2x the standard taxi rate. It was a premium service for tech enthusiasts. But the launch first, ask later strategy immediately hit a wall. San Francisco authorities issued a cease-and-desist order arguing that using the word cab misrepresented the service. To distance itself from the taxi image and survive the legal heat, the company rebranded simply as Uber in October 2010. By 2011, Travis Kalanick took over as CEO, and the company began a blitzkrieg of expansion. They moved into New York, Seattle, and Chicago, and quickly went international, hitting Paris, Toronto, London, and Mexico City. The playbook was identical in every city: launch fast, generate rider demand, and onboard drivers quicker than regulators could react. To fuel this growth, Uber employed a high-risk financial mechanism: heavy subsidies. They underpriced taxes by subsidizing the cost of rides for users, while offering lucrative incentives to drivers. This ensured that riders never waited long and that the supply of cars stayed high. It was a race for liquidity. The state where there are enough drivers and riders to make the marketplace efficient. This race was incredibly expensive. To stay on top, Uber raised $20 billion as a private company. As the company scaled, it moved from a luxury service to a mass-market one. In 2012, they introduced UberX using lower-cost hybrid vehicles. By 2013, they added ride-sharing, allowing regular drivers to use their personal vehicles. They expanded into Asia, Africa, and India, and by 2014, they began transitioning into a logistics company with the launch of Uber Rush, a courier service in New York. But the aggressive growth came with a toxic internal culture. In late 2014, reports surfaced of an initial culture within the company. One senior executive, Emil Michael, reportedly suggested spending $1 million to hire opposition researchers and journalists to dig into the personal lives of critics and the families of journalists who wrote negative stories. By early 2017, Uber was live in over 70 countries and 50 cities. It had become a global verb. But behind the growth, the financials were alarming. Uber was burning billions of dollars annually. The company was fully committed to expansion at any cost, operating under the belief that market share was the only metric that mattered, and that scale would eventually lead to profit. This unsustainable path eventually led to a leadership collapse. In 2017, Travis Kalanick resigned as CEO, and Dara Khosrowshahi was appointed to lead the company into a more disciplined era. The focus shifted from growth at all costs to actual sustainability. They expanded their ecosystem beyond people, moving into meals, groceries, and freight. It took over a decade of burning venture capital and fighting legal battles in nearly every city they entered to reach the turning point. By 2025, the numbers finally reflected a functioning business. Uber reported revenue of $17 billion. For the first time, the company showed massive profitability, with an operating income of $565 billion and a net income of $53 billion. The gamble on scale had finally paid off, but only after the company fundamentally changed how it operated and who led it.